Hi, my name is Zachary Perullo, and this is my chemistry cooking project. Today I will be making minestrone soup. So here we have all the ingredients. We have water, cavatelli pasta, black beans, kosher salt, red pepper, oregano, thyme, bay leaves, crushed red pepper, diced tomatoes, olive oil, chicken broth, potatoes, celery, onions, carrots, kale, and garlic. And today I will be explaining all the chemistry behind what goes into cooking and cutting these products. So we start this experience by crushing cloves of garlic, which is an example of physical chemistry. Right after crushing the cloves of garlic, we move right into peeling and cutting the onions. Cutting and peeling the onions is also an example of a physical change, just like crushing the garlic. A physical change is a change to a substance that alters the substance but does not change the actual composition of the item. The changes come from things like cutting or crushing and usually change the substance's size or shape. As you can see here, I'm cutting the onion, which is changing its size and shape, but not its actual chemical properties. The next step is peeling the carrots. Now you can see I'm peeling the carrots. The peeling of carrots also shows physical change because the item stays the same chemically and does not turn into a new substance. If the item turns into a new substance, it is known as a chemical change. Some examples of chemical changes are cooking, baking, burning, digesting, heating, or rusting. In all of these, the properties or the chemical makeups of the substances are changed, which results in the formation of a new substance. Later in the video, when the vegetables get put into the water and the broth, the vegetables will begin to cook, which is an example of a chemical change. The vegetables will undergo changes in texture, color, scent, and more when being cooked, meaning the vegetables have changed chemically, meaning a chemical change. And now, a word from our sponsor.
This is where you must be patient. You must use the force.
Did he say to use the force while cutting carrots? This is a chemistry cooking video, not the Return of the Jedi. Let's get back to the chemistry. Looks like there's still a lot more carrots. Let's fix that before moving on to our next topic. Would you look at that? All the carrots are cut up. And we'll put it in a bowl to keep it organized. Next, we move on to cutting up the celery. As you may have noticed, none of the ingredients have been put into the soup yet. Most of them will go in at the same time, but there will be a few stages in putting the vegetables and other ingredients in. First will be the oil and the onions. Then will be the carrots and the celery. These ingredients go in first because they are more dense than the other ingredients. And now we will talk about, whoa, what happened to that potato? I guess he really is using the force. Anyways, back to talking about density. When heating plants, the cell walls of the vegetables begin to break down, causing the vegetables to get softer. Adding more dense ingredients first causes the soup to have the same texture all throughout, which is what we want. And look at that, all the potatoes have been cut. Back to you guys in the studio. What? How did he do that so quickly? And how did he know there was a studio? Anyways, we're finally almost done with cutting up our last vegetable, which is kale. Kale is the least dense of the ingredients, meaning it will be added last because it takes the least time to cook. As of right now, all the changes to the vegetables have only been physical changes, but that will change as we begin the cooking stage now. But before we do that, let's talk about composting. So here we have collected all of the waste and all the extra materials from the vegetables we have cut up, and we will put these into the compost. Composting is a natural breakdown of these materials using bacteria, and it gets put into soil and it helps increase plant growth. And now we begin the cooking. Let's turn on the oven and start by adding the oil. Adding the oil first helps improve the flavor of the rest of the soup and also makes it so the vegetables don't fall apart when they are put in the soup. As I let the oil sit for a little bit, I begin to open up the cans of tomatoes and beans to prepare. Wow, what a great music break. Now, here, you can see me filtering the beans. Filtration is a technique that uses a porous barrier to separate a solid from a liquid. Here I am using filtration to clean the beans and to remove the excess salt and starch, which improves the flavor of the soup. As you can see now, we are adding the onions first. We add the onions first so they soften and release the moisture in them, which helps break down the carrots and celery, which are the other more dense ingredients that we will add next.
Now add the other ingredients.
As you can see, we have let the onions sit for a little bit. We are now ready to add the other ingredients. You start with dumping in the carrots. The chemical changes to the ingredients have already begun. The onion's texture and colors have changed, which makes it into a new substance, meaning a chemical change has occurred. Stirring the mixture also encourages chemical changes. Stirring makes the mixture heat evenly. This means the chemical changes that will happen to the vegetables will happen all together. We add the potatoes and the tomatoes next, as they are the next most dense. As the ingredients begin to heat up in the soup, they begin to change chemically more and more. An easy way to tell if a substance is changing chemically is the color. When an ingredient is being cooked and the color changes, it is undergoing a chemical change. The ingredient has been cooked, meaning it has been changed to a different substance, and therefore the color has changed. As you can see here, I'm mixing the ingredients, hoping they will all heat up evenly and chemically change into different versions of themselves that will be softer and more easy to eat in a soup. Now I am beginning to add spices to the soup to improve and better its flavor. The soup that I am making is a heterogeneous mixture, which is a mixture that does not blend smoothly and throughout. The composition of the soup will not be uniform, meaning it is heterogeneous. Something like water by itself would be the opposite, a homogenous mixture, which is a mixture that has a single phase, a constant composition throughout. As I am adding the spices, the mixture is still heating and cooking. As we cook the soup, we do not want to go too far and burn it because that would be a chemical change that is irreversible. We want the ingredients to be firm, but still soft enough that they taste good in a soup. Some other indications of chemical reactions are when the ingredients give off heat. When vegetables are heated, the cell walls and starches begin to break down. This changes the flavors of the vegetables and is a chemical reaction. As you can see, I've added the water and I'm now adding the broth. This means that the vegetables that have been heated and whose cell walls have broken down have begun to release their nutrients into the water and the broth. This change means the vegetables won't taste as flavorful, but their nutrients will have seeped into the broth and the water and the rest of the mixture of the soup, making it taste good. And now we let the soup sit for a while so all the ingredients get absorbed into the water and broth. Was that a spin? Wow. You must really be excited about this soup. I mean, I would be too. It looks really good. Now, we set the timer for 25 minutes and we wait. We also do a little bit of stirring. Stirring should not be done for all 25 minutes, just for a little bit of the time. The stirring is done so that all the vegetables heat evenly and have the same taste and texture. And while we've been stirring this soup, it looks like a guest has come along.
I think he approves.
Well, he most definitely approves. The soup is looking absolutely fantastic. A chemical change that you cannot tell while watching from home is the smell of the soup. After a few minutes of the soup boiling, a strong smell starts to come out of it. This is the sign that the vegetables have begun to break down. The heat makes it so that amino acids react with sugars in the soup, which makes the smell. The smell represents a chemical change in the soup, which is a sign that all the vegetables are not the same substances they were at the beginning of the video because of the heat and water.
So now the mixture has been boiling for about 20 minutes and we will add two of the final ingredients.
The pasta and the beans are added close to the end because they do not need as much time to cook. To get the right texture for the pasta, water is absorbed, which makes the pasta the perfect texture. This happens through protein and starch interactions. As the final ingredients are added to the soup, all the ingredients have changed chemically into the best versions of themselves that mix well together and taste good. Now we add the kale, which is the easiest to cook, which is why we add it last. If we look at the soup now, There have been changes in the color of the broth and all the other materials in the soup. This is because of chemical changes, which occurs because of a change in temperature in the soup. All of the ingredients have changed into new substances through chemical change.
Alright, now we'll do a quick taste test to see how the soup is tasted. It's hot, very hot. Now the last step, we add the lemon.
The lemon balances all the flavors in the dish. We add the lemon at the end so it doesn't cook and turn bitter in the soup. And there you have it. There's the soup.
Now, later in the day, I present the final taste test. Didn't burn my tongue that time. Very good.
And that is the chemistry behind minestrone soup.